Pay It Forward is the perfect name for our show, and it perfectly represents our next group of industry leaders, including the team from Quantum 5, Anthony Montero of Draver, and our Women in the Service Lane panel, just ahead at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
It's so vitally important that we have the Leukemia Lymphoma Society on our side, be the front runner in the newest, most up-to-date technologies for fighting cancer.
To give or get help, visit lls.org.
I wanted to share with you a little bit today about Quantum's beliefs around knowing how to work with different types of customers. I grew up selling cars in Chicago, and selling cars in Chicago taught me that when the Cubs customer came in, and I had to know how to work with that customer. They wanted their beer, they were happy-go-lucky, they believed that everything would always be okay. And I also had to learn how to work with the hockey customer, because the Blackhawks fan was going to come in. They were a little more rough and tumble. They liked their beer and didn't mind if it got spilled while somebody was charging the walls. And then I definitely had to learn how to sell to the downtown Chicago customer. They came in straight from the Board of Trade or a bank, and they wanted to know how we made the beers. And last but not least, in Chicago, you are definitely going to meet some of the customers that came straight from Lake Michigan. They were on their boat. They wanted to have a beer, and they definitely wanted people to know it was a great one. If you want to know, how do I work with all different kinds of customers at your dealership, whether it's an email, a phone call, a text message, or in person, Quantum has answers you want.
Well, Ted, evidently, retention is the new superpower, according to Fleming Ford, Dave Foy, and Sarah Van Tyne of Quantum 5.
Well, we are looking forward to this next panel with our great friends from Quantum 5. It's called Retention is the New Superpower, and we have some big power here on this panel, starting with Fleming Ford, who is the newly minted Chief Strategy Officer at Quantum 5. Fleming, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted. So great to be here with you all.
Yeah, great to see you again. And I got to welcome two very close friends who are here with us today, Dave Foy. Dave, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Always a pleasure to be here.
Dave, thank you for all that you do at the industry and thanks for being with us since that very first Fixed Ops Roundtable 2.5 years ago in New York City. So I appreciate that. And of course, Sarah Van Tyne is here with us as well. Sarah, welcome back to the event.
Thank you so much, Ted. Looking forward to today.
Yeah, I am too, Sarah. And thank you for all you do for the industry as well. So really excited about this panel, Fleming. Fleming, I know you've got a lot on your plate there with Quantum 5, and you've got some great insights, and you're going to obtain some great insights from both Dave and Sarah as well. So I'm going to get out of the way and let you work your magic.
Thank you, Ted. And hey, Sarah and Dave, so excited to be with you both today and share the wealth of knowledge. I'm sure there's going to be some mic drops, so stick around because we have some real good ideas on how we can really take your talent puddle and really start to attract and engage and retain people so that you have the people you need going into 2022 to really provide that great customer experience that everyone is looking for. Sarah and Dave and I have been out working with GMs and fixed op directors, service managers, and what we're hearing more and more is they're asking, how can we find more talent? How can we get more candidates? How can we attract better people? And so we thought it'd be a great opportunity here today to share with you some ideas about what strategies that Sarah and Dave have found to be super successful in their stores when they have been working with their teams. So just to kind of kick it off, turnover in automotive is running at about 46%. So still extremely high, still extremely challenging. Advisors seem to be one of those really tricky sticking spots. I think we're turning over advisors at about 45%. So half of our advisors don't even make it through the first year. And our technicians, about 30%. We're seeing an uptick in technicians leaving. They didn't used to leave. And now everybody's looking for more. They're looking for better connections, more relevance, more growth. And so let's dive in and kind of unpack how we can attract those types of people. So first off, I want to ask, for Sarah, you and I were talking a little bit about this idea you had about tying the goals of the dealership to the individual's goals and aligning them so they get more buy-in. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Absolutely, Fleming. So this is one of my favorite things to do with the team, is really establish goals that are more personal than just straight monetary targets. Everybody, of course, needs to earn a living, have a paycheck to support their families, support their livelihood, and the things that they want to do. But sometimes what happens to people is they get really burned out with just chasing dollar signs. And so they don't really have a concrete way to align their goals and their performance with what they hope to do with whatever income that they're producing. And so one of the things that I worked really hard with my team on was establishing some visions that aligned with what they were hoping to accomplish with their bonus checks, and then setting aside very, very specific data points to drive those results. So for example, I had an employee that was getting married, and one of the things that he was really hoping to do was pay for the whole honeymoon and some additional excursions that they wanted to go on as a couple. And one of these things was a dolphin excursion. And when he came to me, he said, this is going to be really hard to hit. It's like a $1,200 experience. And I just don't know how I'm going to accomplish this with my bonus, because I'm not earning that kind of money that I can cover this. So this was about 7 months away from the wedding. And so what we did is we broke down very specific goals, how he could earn that $1,200 towards that dolphin excursion. And we put it into daily and monthly and weekly plans. And so we broke it down at the very fundamental level. This is how many phone calls you have to make. This is how many appointments need to show. This is how many people you need to talk to get to this additional revenue that's going to yield the end result, which is an additional amount of income towards your bonus that then is going to result in the dolphin cruise or the dolphin experience. So we were able to accomplish that with him in actually 3.5 months. And so if you can break down your team's personal goals, like have one-on-one conversations every single month, have these discussions with them. What are they hoping to accomplish? What are they looking to do in their lives? That's how you can really make a difference to keep people, because it shows you're engaged and then you're aligning their goals with something that they want as well.
I absolutely love that. It reminds me a lot of Simon Sinek's Know Your Why, and going beyond just the company's why, but to the individual's why. And that really, I think, touches on one of the big retention grabbers, which is invest your time in your team, because I want to know you care. And I think that is really a great tactic and strategy, is to really kind of understand their why and then help them tie that back to their goals, because then they own their goals. And that's exciting. So thanks, Sarah. That's a really big tip. And I hope everybody has a chance to try that out before the end of the year. Dave, you've done a lot of work helping dealerships out with their service departments and improving the productivity. And the productivity does come from tenured staff. So I know you created this great program, and I know Quantum 5 is going to be launching it later next year, about vision and values. Can you share how that program helped you impact retention?
Yeah, absolutely. So the vision and values is you have to paint a vision for the store or for the group that is large enough that everybody within that, everybody on that team under that vision can see how that helps them get to the vision for their own individual life. So Just as Sarah said, everybody has their individual goals that they want to get to. If you can paint a vision that's large enough for the store that they can understand that by achieving that for the store, they also achieve everything that they want for their lives, and also understanding what it is they want for their lives, right? So we can't just put the vision out there and just leave it. We need to understand what makes them tick, show them a path to get there, and whatever that path is for somebody. For some, they may want to be a service advisor for their entire career. Some may be looking to not be a service advisor within a year and want to move up or move laterally from there. And it's our job as the leaders to understand what those motivations are so that we can help enable them to get to where they want to be. Happy employees are not going to go anywhere. They're going to stay with you. Long-term employees are, as you said, the most productive employees. They're also the employees who are bringing people that they know into your stores to work, to shop. They increase every bit of happiness, retention, and gross profit in our stores.
Now, I think you're both tapping into my favorite radio station, which is WIIFM, What's in It for Me. And I think we have to always bring the job back to the individual because they need to feel connected. They need to feel valued. And I think even more so than before COVID, we have to really express how we value people and how important they are to us. Because right now there are multiple jobs that they can go get. They're probably being offered bonuses. They're also maybe thinking about going out on their own and being entrepreneurs now. It's become really easy to start your own, mobile shop or work from home and help support dealerships on your own. So what are some ideas that you guys have about how you can make employees feel more valued? How do you connect as a manager with different personalities, different values, different interests and goals, as you said? What's other ways that you guys have seen retention go up in your departments? Sarah?
Well, one of my favorite things that I like to work on with my team is really mentoring them and aligning some of the things that they want to achieve professionally with whatever they're currently doing, and then also set a growth plan. So it's so important that you have a development strategy for your people to continue to grow them within your organization. So many organizations get very fearful about investing the time and the revenue into development for their team because they're afraid that they're going to take those skills and they're going to just leave. So they're like, you know what? I don't want to invest in my people because they're just going to go take that skill somewhere else. Well, what actually happens is a person in the organization sees that, wow, there's nothing in it for me here. They're not developing me. I'm not growing. I'm not learning. So if I have nothing left to achieve or nothing left to learn in my role, I'm not going to feel very empowered or very valued. And I might start looking at other options where I can find more growth. And so it's important that you create an employee retention plan that includes development for your people and doing things like, okay, if I have a staff member that she's in graduate school and she really wants to learn how to do Excel, because that's going to help her as she navigates her school endeavors and later on professionally. One thing that I did to help her was go alongside her and say, okay, I will teach you Excel. Let me show you how these Excel reports impact our department currently. Let me teach you how to look for these things, how to input this data, and then monitor it. And so not only did I take something off of my plate where I no longer had to worry about doing my Excel reports every day, but I also had an ability where I'm bringing somebody up in the organization to learn that skill, and then they felt more valued, and as a result, they've stayed with the organization.
I absolutely love that, and I think you hit on something really important. So I just want to kind of reiterate. 140,000 dealership employees were surveyed, and the number one kind of why I'm going to stay and why I'm going to leave is, are you growing me? And if you're a leader who can one-on-one grow people or help them get to the growth or this classes or the training or cross training that they can, really feel that they're getting better and challenged, you're really already tapping into one of the great areas of retention. And, Dave, I want to go back to something that you mentioned about, and I think this is when we kind of were thinking about the title of this, is how retention is a superpower to help you attract more talent. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit for me? Why is that so critical to getting talent going forward?
So obviously, if you look on any of the job posting boards, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs that are out there, and they all basically say the same thing, right? But it's much more powerful when it comes from someone that saying, "Hey, you should come work for the company I work for."
Wow, yes.
To be able to get that, you need to be pouring into your team. You need to be showing them the way so that they want to bring others along with them, just as you're bringing them along with you. I have worked with a bunch of technicians who are now service managers, service directors, service advisors. That was the path that they chose. And so you work with them on that. Show them the podcast list that you listen to, show them the books that you read, introduce them to the people who have helped you along the way. A lot of us struggled in this industry to get where we are, to find the knowledge that we now have, and to be able to give that back to others to make it easier on their journey, to see somebody reach the same level you're at or go above where you are. That's not about losing an employee. That, as a leader, that is your greatest triumph right there. And that's what we all should be striving for. And that just has them saying, "Come along with me, come and follow me, come work with me." And you just get better and better people.
No, and I think when people see that you are capable of growing other leaders and growing people to their highest potential, then people want to be part of that winning team. And I think that's where that attraction comes from, and you get much better candidates. It is very hard to compete on Indeed. It's very hard to compete just with job postings or job fairs. So your people are your best advertisement going forward. Mm-hmm. Real quickly, I want to kind of jump into a lightning round as we wrap up here with one final question. Employees should enjoy doing their jobs, right? It's a vital part of keeping them engaged, motivated. It seems obvious when you think about it, but people really are more frustrated than ever right now with their work. What is one thing that a manager can start doing to help employees now feel like they're in the right place and on the right path? Sarah, what's your one last thought?
So if a dealership could implement one thing right now that's going to make the biggest difference, it's having frequent conversations with your people. It's simple. Just sit down, set weekly goals, set daily goals, and then follow up on them. That's going to keep your people feeling engaged. It's going to make them feel like, wow, I'm really, really cared about by my manager and by this company because they want to see me succeed. It also helps you pinpoint things that may be going wrong and quickly adjust them before they get too out of control.
Great idea. And I think we have a great class on that 5 and 5. These aren't long sessions. These are short 5-minute, right, Sarah? That,
yes.
You're just kind of checking in, seeing what the challenges, obstacles are. Are they on track? Do they need any help? And, that is a very powerful tool that a manager can put in their toolbox. Dave, what about you? What's one tip you would encourage everybody to give a try?
Yeah, I'm going to say that you need to look at being a coach versus a boss. You need to understand the desires of your team, what motivates them, and how to feed into that motivation to get the most out of them.
Thank you, Dave. That's really great. And I think if we can all change our mindsets and our hats going into 2022 and really coach your people up, because people don't want a boss anymore. They want a coach, they want a supporter, they want a cheerleader, they want an advisor, but they definitely do not want a boss. Thank you.
Dave, I love that last thing that you just said. So that was so strong. I think that resonates with everybody who works in the retail automotive business. Fleming, you mentioned 5-on-5 and some of the curriculum that Quantum 5 has. If our audience wants to reach out to you and to Quantum 5 to learn more about your company, your services, and things that you do to really help automotive dealerships and OEMs as well, and dealer groups, how do they reach you?
They can reach us at our website, and Sarah or Dave and I can absolutely set up some conversations with them. And that's going to be at Quantum5, and that's the number 5.ai. So Quantum5.ai, and there's an information sheet, and we'd be happy to set up some time to share with you a little bit about our skills training and development platform.
Quantum 5, everybody, taking the industry by storm. Thank you so much to the panel. Sarah Van Tine. Sarah, a pleasure as always. Thank you for being here today on the panel. Dave Foy, again, great information. Thank you so much for all that you do for the industry.
Thank you, Ted.
And of course, Fleming Ford from Quantum 5. Everybody, Quantum 5 here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
It's always great to hear from our friends at Quantum 5. And Ted, we also learn something new every time about the impact of vehicle transportation strategies from Anthony Montero at Draver.
Anthony Montero is the Chief Operating Officer at Draver, a great friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And we've heard an awful lot about Draver, and it's going to continue to grow. Anthony, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
As usual, Ted, love being here. Always enjoy having the conversations, and then the follow-up conversations are always amazing when folks see these sessions and reach back out to us. So glad to be back.
Anthony, I think a lot of people don't realize that Draver is not only a software and logistics company, but you also offer a network of contractors that dealers and businesses can access to get their vehicles moved on demand.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what we do. We started off and still are a major software company. It's logistics and AI, trip planning, route planning, skills-based movement of how do I get a vehicle from A to B, or maybe a person or even a package these days, of how, as a business operator, how do I connect all of these movements together so I can create these efficiencies? Well, some of the challenges we ran into earlier were our business partners, dealers and other businesses just didn't have the staff. They didn't have the bodies to do this. So we went out and built a network of drivers, contract drivers, very similar to Uber or Lyft or any of those other companies. And they're drivers that work for Draver. We vet them. We make sure they have the proper licensing and background checks. And yeah, it's part of our platform. We're really a matchmaker of, I need to have this job done of moving a vehicle, which we call a task, from A to B or maybe to another location. And then we marry that to a business that needs that work done. And then everything happens inside the Draver platform. So yeah, we've been doing that for a long time.
And movement of vehicles is probably never more important than it's right now in 2021. And I don't think that a lot of us, even within the industry, realize that there needs to be a focus on how we do it. And that movement of the vehicle in itself, you and I talked a few events back, is actually a measurable that we should be taking a look at, along with things like labor hours and so on. Our theme at this event, as you know, is Pay It Forward.
Mm-hmm.
We're raising some money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We've got some folks on here from that organization, and we're certainly grateful to everybody for that. How does that tie into what Draver is doing, Pay It Forward?
So if you think about what we just spoke about with this network of contract drivers, when COVID hit, there was a lot of people that instantly were out of work, right? They were working at maybe a restaurant, or they were working in an industry that was shut down or closed down as we tried to navigate through COVID and figure out what's the right thing to do, keep a business open, close a business. Well, in that span of time, demand went up for a lot of these delivery services, not only in the automotive industry, which we all know greatly expanded from service pickup and drop off to home delivery of vehicles as car dealers tried to navigate through this as well. But what happened, if you think about pay it forward, these people that were out of work now had a way to sustain some income, and whether it was part-time or full-time. So they were able to get in, go through the process, and become a driver on the platform as an independent contractor, where they control their hours that they work, they control how much they want to work. And it was a safe environment because we're moving vehicles mostly without people in them. So through COVID, when you start looking at these independent contractors that were doing gig work, they had people in their back seat, and they became very nervous about that. So taking a car from the Toyota to the Honda store, there's nobody in there except yourself, and we grew really quickly. But the good news is we were able to help those people put food on the table, and then also keep these businesses moving forward, right? So pay it forward that way, but get these people a job. And there's some examples of, people that had sick grandparents or parents or family members that couldn't work 9 to 5, even if they had that job still, because they had other burdens that they had to take care of. In these flexible work hours, as a gig worker, gave them that flexibility to say, hey, I need to take Thursdays off and turn their app off, and then come back and maybe work, Friday all day.
Years ago, I remember working at a Ford dealership, and I remember when trucks got hot. And I remember there was a time when the box trucks really got hot, and I sold a lot of those. I remember you telling us about how the box truck rental business expanded during COVID and got very complicated due to that high demand for delivery of services from retailers like Amazon and so on. Tell us about that. I think that's fascinating.
So absolutely fascinating. And again, not something that you put in your business model when you're looking out 2 years as you're growing a company, that all of a sudden Amazon's going to be a customer of yours. But what happened was, if you remember March, April, May, everything shut down, and there was high demand for, companies like Amazon and all these online buying companies were supplying toilet paper, toothpaste, just your basic necessities, as things ran out in the grocery stores and people had to try to get these sundries every day. Well, Amazon obviously didn't predict for that either. So they had scalability of how many trucks that they could get out and how many packages they could actually put on doorsteps. Well, what they started to do is reach out to companies like Penske Truck Lease and other box truck companies, and they would sublet those. And then then they would have other drivers, or even in some cases, Draver drivers, that would have to relocate 30-foot box trucks into another region that just didn't have the capacity to move all those vehicles. So these box trucks, and if people probably remember as I'm saying this, that when you got your Amazon package, and it still happens today, it's a Penske truck showing up in front of your house, and they're bringing that Amazon package to you. So that model still is pervasive throughout the industry, but it really exploded through COVID. So we were able to help supply that as well to keep that industry or that ecosystem and supply chain moving.
And just to come back to what you said earlier about that flexible gig and the people who want to work only certain hours, I didn't realize that Draver was such an integral part of that whole experience that began last year and really continues now to this day.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of who we are, right? And when you look at Draver, it's not just this really cool logistics software that pretty much every business needs if they want to take command of all this movement that goes on. But we really true offer some opportunities for people that can't work a 9 to 5 or can't do a full, 5 days a week type work, and they need that flexibility. And even more today, as companies still haven't recovered, these folks still need to put food on their table. So, the ability to work for Draver as an independent contractor and move these vehicles and do that type of work has been, I have testimony after testimony from drivers that basically will say, listen, you you guys helped me through this time. And some of them are going back to their normal jobs, but they're still, think about in a car dealership alone, how many college kids or, uncles or aunts that have some free time that they could reach out to and say, why don't you just jump on Draver, because I got a bunch of cars that we need to move and I trust you and know you. And they can build their own community of drivers that are just part-time individuals without the, hey, I have to manage that schedule, right? And if they don't want to work on Thursday, they just don't turn their app on. So we're really proud of it. And we know that it's helped a lot of folks that not only couldn't get jobs, but still today don't have the ability to find a job, but have the ability to get income and put food on their table.
Let's come back to the dealer level, because dealers have those same challenges with not being able to get employees, not enough employees, and of course dealers are measured on customer satisfaction and so on. And we're really doing the right thing, by doing the extra steps now, going the extra mile, some of the things you described, not just the service pickup and delivery, but delivering the vehicles at home. And look at all the moves that a dealership needs to make in order to keep a customer satisfied. Not only did you burst into the radar screen in the little over the last year, but now I think more than ever before, there's so many moves that a lot of us have not been aware of, but now it's come really full circle.
Yeah, it has. And, to be honest, there's more that show up every day that even we didn't think about, and other businesses are coming to us and say, hey, I have this use case of I need to move these vehicles because, right, whatever it is. And, now it's some of the OEs saying, well, I've got all these vehicles and normally I'd move 1,000 of them at once, but I only got 15 chips, right? So I only need to move small amounts, right? Instead of, the big long haulers. And, we had a nice conversation yesterday on a call about logistics and long hauling in how this industry is changing so quickly. And long hauling connected with the last mile takes a lot of touch points away, right? Instead of storing vehicles in these big lots, we're seeing models of taking the vehicle from the manufacturer to a recon facility or a PDI facility and right in the customer's driveway, because as this supply is so short, the vehicles are sold before they even hit the lot. So why even have them go to the lot? Just have them come out of a PDI scenario and put it in the customer's driveway. Think of the floor plan costs you save, right? That supply chain goes, instead of to a trucker to a dealer lot, it goes from a trucker to a PDI location into the customer's hands.
All right, so my wheels are spinning now. I'm thinking, you just described one move that Draver could make for a dealership. To put you on the spot, give me an example of some more moves that you would make for a dealership. And probably include maybe one or two that maybe you weren't even planning on, early on, that a dealer can get more efficiencies from Draver.
Sure. So look at Carvana and Vroom and other companies right now that are acquiring vehicles directly from consumers. As the used car market's been, the supply is very low. Used car values are super high. I don't have any new cars. So they're really marketing to Car Gurus is doing it as well. And we help Car Gurus facilitate this. They're buying the car directly from the consumer. Well, someone's got to pick that car up or somebody's got to inspect it, right? Before I buy it, I want a physical inspector. So they'll send out a Draver driver. We'll do an inspection. The next day they say, hey, we want to buy this vehicle. The customer has the paperwork in their hand via a FedEx envelope. Through APIs and logistics of another driver's dispatched directly to that consumer's home. We pick up that paperwork, take that vehicle in the possession, we bring it to a recon facility or a repair shop. On the way, our platform will have the driver take a photograph of the FedEx envelope, geolocate the box, put the FedEx envelope in the box with the title and the paperwork, and continue on their journey to the recon location. So the ability to create these new businesses of acquiring vehicles directly from a consumer imagine if humans had to sit there and connect all those dots and dispatch thousands of these drivers to the customer's house. And then do all of those steps along the way, it would just, literally be impossible. So that's one that's really new and really exciting.
And by the way, if I could interrupt you,
Yeah.
everybody can relate to that Carvana commercial with the car on the or cars on the carrier being delivered to someone's home, or the Vroom commercial, right? With the
Yes.
cars being delivered in the driveway, or a choice
Yeah.
of cars. I met somebody in the last week who said to me, "Oh, I wouldn't want to buy a car at a dealership. I want that Carvana experience." Well, a dealership can have that without having all the overhead to provide that, because they could use the contractors at Draver.
Right, all day long. And do you want the overhead, right? How much is a flatbed truck, and how much is a full-time CDL driver? And do you want to take on all that risk of he put it on wrong, or you can only do one at a time, right? So do you need 3 trucks or 5 trucks? You know, if you really go, instead of dipping your toe, you go full in on the digital retailing side, or full in on service concierge. You don't want to just do 1 or 2 at a time. You want to do 10 or 20, right? You want to make that happen in your business, so it's just part of your overall business operation, and you don't have all of this extra, you know, the repair costs of the flatbed truck and the management of it and the drivers. And what happens if it slows down, and now I've got a full-time driver and a flatbed truck? That's part of my balance sheet that I have to worry about, versus, hey, I had a slow week, I'm only doing 10 of these, versus business explodes again in the following week. Now I got to do 30, right? Can that 1 truck or 2 trucks handle 30? Well, they can't. So now your experience to the consumer goes, well, I can do this thing, but it's going to be 2 weeks before I can get you your car, which kind of takes the wind out of that sail, right? So it's on demand, it's super flexible, and any dealer, I'm not just talking about the big, you know, the top 10 that we see all the time and hear from all the time. I'm talking about the 15 car a month used car dealer can give the same experience as the big guys in the Carvanas and Vroom. And before I stop, here's another really cool, you know, to pivot off of that. We have a company that's providing through a business operation, employees that have poor credit, right? So the lower tiers of credit, but they're providing them the opportunity to get a vehicle and pay for it back through their employment, right? So they're having this ability to get these buyers and employees a vehicle, which they really didn't have the opportunity to because of their credit. They want them to have the same experience. So we're delivering these cars through that platform to these people that would never, right? It's only, you know, if you think about it, it's the upper wealthy that can afford that can pay the extra $600 to Carvana or Vroom and get that experience. Your subprime clients normally not getting that experience. Well, they're providing that you are a VIP experience to these people because they're their employees. They want to give them a fresh start, and the smiles on their faces and the smiles on the faces of our drivers when they're the ones doing it, it's amazing.
And
it
finally, Anthony, if I were to order right now some food for takeout, I could order it on one of the providers, on one of the apps, and I would get military grade tracking of that order as it comes to my home. Okay. Yeah. In the past, dealers, when they made moves like that, have no idea where the car is, where the driver is, why it took so long. Did they go directly there? Do you help the dealer with that logistics piece of technology?
Yeah, 100%. You know, not only is there a flight board and, you know, it looks like air traffic control on the dispatcher side at the dealership, or, you know, companies like Penske Truck that have thousands of these things going in multiple directions all over the country. You really have to manage it like a air traffic controller in that case. But for your single point or smaller dealer group, they have the same technology available. And not only that experience that the consumer gets, the adaptive responsive link that we send them via text will tell them that your driver's on the way. It will show them coming down the road, just like your DoorDash and Uber Eats experience. And they can connect the driver to the consumer, because sometimes the consumer might not be there at the time, or the driver might get stuck in traffic, or something happens, they're a little late. They can chat or they can text and they can talk to each other, just like your Uber experience, and say, hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late. But they can also see on their app the ETA. They can see exactly where the driver is coming with their car or leaving with their car. You know, sometimes when you do service concierge, you hand the keys and your car goes away. And, you know, maybe it's an uneasy feeling of some person just took my car. Well, they can see through our tracker experience, that vehicle going back to the dealership, and it shows them when the car was handed back to the technician. So, tying that all together and giving those experiences not only to the dealers and our clients, but their customers as well. You have to make that experience memorable, or it's, don't say you're going to do it and not do it, but when you do it right and do it memorable, or else they're just going to get that same sour taste.
You're bringing dealers, small and large and medium, into the modern world there, Anthony, with your technology. How does a dealership or a manager reach out to you?
So it's probably ticking across the bottom of the screen. They can call directly to me on my cell phone number. I'd love to talk to dealers that watch these and get their feedback and understand what their business needs are. And then we'll go from there, or send just an email to sales@draver.com. We'll get right on that, answer any questions, and set up a demo. But again, if you know anybody that needs work and can do a gig like Draver and just have a good driving record and be responsible with these vehicles, have them go right to our Draver app and download it, and they can enroll and sign up to be a driver and start making some, either a full-time or a part-time gig, and make a little money.
Anthony Montero, the COO of Draver. Everyone, reach out to Anthony, get into the modern game. And Anthony, thank you so much on behalf of the Fixed Ops community.
Thanks, Ted. Good luck with the fundraiser. We're glad to be a part of it.
Companies across diverse industries conduct a lot of vehicle moves every day. But are you tracking the efficiency and cost of these moves? The level of time and planning, or lack thereof, going into them? Many businesses actually fail to track vehicle movement costs, and that leads them to encouraging, whether they know it or not, wasteful uses of time and money. This is where Draver comes in. We move vehicles daily, at any scale, from local to international, empowered by our AI logistics platform. When it comes to vehicle movement, Draver takes all the heavy lifting off your staff. Your employees are tasked with moving vehicles, people, and packages every day. Draver's simple web interface makes it easy for your people to track and control the chaos. Then, our drivers get minute-by-minute instructions via the app, making sure everyone is on the same page. The Draver platform matches pickup and delivery tasks with drivers, and then coordinates drivers to trips. It adds efficient logistics to your operation. Our platform constantly optimizes routes, termination points to origination points, and rideshare versus chase decisions. In practice, it eliminates the need for a chase vehicle over 40% of the time, saving your business time and money. To keep your operation consistently staffed, Draver can predict workforce shortages against daily demand and find insured, vetted drivers ASAP. Best of all, Draver is flexible with your infrastructure. It seamlessly integrates with your software and processes, so you don't have to change a thing. You can use the platform to optimize your existing operations. You can take advantage of Draver's network of drivers, or you can use a combination of both. We make it easy for any business to move vehicles. Whether it's one truck, hundreds of cars, or 1,000 semis, our online platform does it all for you. Sign up today, and we will waive all setup fees, and we'll credit your account with $200 for free moves.
Well, our next panel hit it out of the park at our last event, and we are honored to have them back for Pay It Forward. It's the Women in the Service Lane panel, and it's moderated by Lori Halter. Lori, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here with these ladies. They have so much to share.
They do, and man, it was really great last time. They got such a great reception and great feedback, and I'm excited about what you all have to share today. And so, Lori, the show is yours.
Perfect. No pressure, right, girls? So yes, as Jean said, this is the leadership in the service lane panel, or actually I shouldn't say service because we have parts on this time too. So leadership in fixed ops. Before we get started, I was hoping each of you could introduce yourself and who you're with. So let's start with you, Cindy.
Thank you. Cindy Lentz. I am with Germain Toyota of Naples. I am a parts service and body shop director or a fixed ops director.
Great. Elizabeth?
My name is Elizabeth Martin. I am the service BDC manager for the Scott Clark Auto Group in Matthews and Charlotte area, North Carolina.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us. Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda Mitchell. I'm with Mercedes-Benz of Bernie under the Group 1 Automotive Corporation, and I'm the service manager.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Kaylee.
Hi, yeah, I'm the sales and marketing manager here at Parts Edge. We're based out of San Diego, but I'm actually in Arizona.
Well, we are so thrilled to have you on again. And as Jean said, you guys just had the best reception last time. Everyone loved what you had to say. So we are back for round 2. This time we thought we'd talk about leadership. And a big shout out to Roger Conant, who is Women in the Service Lane. He shared with me some really interesting information about the ratio of women in different departments. And I just wanted to give a quick info on this before we started in with our first question. What we're seeing, especially in fixed ops, is trouble getting women to kind of what we call the finish line, right? For in leadership positions. So some interesting ratios. Service advisors are the top, actually, with 19% of females. But by the time you get down to the parts manager and the service manager, we're at 6% of females, and sales managers were at 5%. Parts technicians are 1%. So we thought a great thing today, and you guys all being wonderful guests could answer for us, is how do we create more leadership paths for females in the fixed ops department? With that in mind, I want to first ask, does anyone know, or are they themselves a female that's made a growth path throughout fixed ops? Or do you know of someone who's created leadership in fixed ops? And Elizabeth, let's start with you with that question.
So as far as a female service advisor or parts employee, I don't know anyone personally that's made into a leadership role or management position. I have heard of other ladies being in that role, but really the only female that I've known that's been into a management position in automotive is Sarah Valentine, and that's part of fixed ops. So she's really the only person that I know of personally.
Yes, yeah, and then she got taken out of the dealership. She's now with the vendor. Well, Cindy, I know personally you have had a leadership role, and I know that you really believe in then helping women promote from within. So what would you say about this question?
So yes, my leadership role started as a part-time title clerk 30 years ago. And I remember Mr. Germain coming to me about 6 months in and asked me, do you want to write service? And I was like, sure. And then I found what I really, truly loved. And from there, I visited the parts department. I worked in sales, went into management, and went into directorship from there. But I also have a protege who followed a similar path. She was a cashier for me when she was in high school.
Wow.
And she finished college with an education degree. And she is the service manager at a store right now.
That is fantastic. And just you personally with this story, do you have, the goals of becoming a general manager, or what are your overall goals for leadership within the group?
Absolutely. That is my next step.
I love it.
It ain't over yet.
Okay, well, we'll be watching and cheering from the sidelines.
Thank you.
Kaylee, what about you? I know you have a really unique position in this panel because you deal with a lot of parts managers. Have you run into female parts managers, or how is it looking on that end?
Yeah, I don't run into them very often. Recently, though, I ran into one that is in charge of a very large operation in Phoenix. And she's actually the president of the Mopar Masters Guild, which is super impressive. I think she's the first female. So very rare, but it does happen.
Yeah. Okay. I hear another guest, a future guest as well for this panel.
Yeah,
we'll have to invite her. And then Amanda, we'll end with you. Have you found that have you found leadership roles for women are you currently on the path to that?
So I feel like I'm currently on the path to that. I started as a receptionist at a dealer in Houston and then kind of worked my way up. I was a cashier, I was an express advisor, an advisor, warranty admin. So I've kind of worked my way through, and my end goal is possibly GM, but I would be happy as a service director. And I found it very easy to move up with the current management that I have now. They're very supportive of it. But I do also know of other females, and my mentor and best friend actually did the same thing. She started on the service drive as a porter, moved up as an advisor, and then now she's the director at another one of our stores under Group 1. And our assistant parts manager, she started on the drive as well and moved up. So I think it's just getting the word out there that it's a good job, it's fun, we're on our way up.
I love it. And that actually perfectly transitions into my next question. And I think I'll start first with Cindy and then go to Amanda again. It's really, how do we create leadership paths for women? So what specific tactics can dealership management take to ensure, what I think is interesting is you both started in like a lower sales position and moved your way up. How can we do that for the women coming behind? Cindy, let's start with you.
So opening leadership path to women in the fixed operations department starts with women like ourselves. We need to be career champions. It starts with us as leadership roles and showing them how to proactively manage their career, being an inner circle with whom they can communicate frequently about the automotive industry, in the automotive industry, give them guidance and advice. This group can be a circle of female mentors and confidants.
Yes, I love that. I speak with a lot of women in a lot of different roles across the dealership and the dealership channels. And number one is mentors, female mentors. That's the number one thing that women are looking for when they're following a leadership path. Amanda, what would you add to that?
I think it's getting the word out there, recruiting, letting people know that there are these positions. I mean, like Cindy said, she had a high school student as one of her cashiers. It's finding where they want to go and then helping them to create that path to see if, to motivate them and move them through. It's going to start with them just being open. That's kind of what I did with my managers, is letting them know, hey, this is my goal. I'm ambitious. I want to go to the top, and just pushing through and finding all the answers to get there.
Yes, I love this, and I've heard that as well. A lot of people say the key, if you're a female employee, is going for the job you want and then doing things outside of your current role to ensure that you're showing them that this is who I can be in this organization. Very great feedback. Kaylee, what would you add to that?
I agree with everyone. I think just communication, understanding what's available to them, and then taking note of those certain employees that go above and beyond, because those are the ones that are wanting to do more and wanting to grow. So
I love it. And Elizabeth, you've moved up yourself. I know that you've moved up positions. And Sarah was your mentor. So what would you say about this?
I mean, I agree with everyone here. Having a mentor, a female mentor, is really important, because me, I had zero automotive experience when I came into this role, and I had no intention of actually staying because I didn't really see any female employees in the service department or anywhere in the dealership unless they were in accounting or something. And seeing somebody like Sarah just made me really change my entire career path. I'm like, wow, this is a female in the service automotive industry. If she can do it, I can do it. And yes. I would say if I didn't have a mentor, I probably wouldn't have stuck around as long as I did, because, I've wanted to be a manager, and I've told her that I wanted to be a manager, and I had interest in growing, and she listened to me. She gave me a lot of opportunities. She helped me. She delegated some responsibility. She would tell me what I need to improve on, and communication style, things of that. But it's super important to have a mentor, and if you have an employee that shows interest in wanting to move up to a higher position, you should take them up on that. You shouldn't shut them down. Give them the opportunity to show you what they can really do.
Well, and I think it's really important. Those are all 100%. And I think it's really important. I've spoken with a lot of men who are very interested in helping females now rise up the ranks. Like Jeff Daniel is one example of someone who just really is a big advocate of that. So we've talked about what you can do as the employee, looking for outside opportunities. Let's move a little bit to, if you are a manager right now and you see promise in some of the women that are, any employees really, but because we're speaking about women, if you see promise in some of the women, what could these dealerships management teams be doing to really help pave the way specifically? Amanda, let's start with you.
Going out and recruiting more. I mean, we do it for technicians. Why not do it for the support roles or the advisor roles? Going to colleges and during their career weeks. It's a career. It's a great opportunity. There's a lot of growth in it. So why aren't we getting out there and letting people know this is what we have to offer and just recruiting?
Yes, I think recruiting is big. And, this is another one that as we talk, women are saying, most of the women I meet in automotive are like, we had no idea we were going into automotive. Well, a recruiter reached out to me and just said, there's a great opportunity. And they said they would not have done it had they known it's automotive. Kaylee, I know you have a story about this personally, about finding talent in unusual places. Do you want to share your personal story with us?
Yeah, I was a manager at a Subway restaurant, and my bosses at Parts Edge were my regular customers, and they saw something in me and presented an opportunity. And like most people, I was fresh out of high school, going into college and kind of not sure what I wanted to do. So I think that we can find unusual places. We can find people, especially if you're a regular customer, a Starbucks, a Subway, because the work ethics in those environments are really, really good. So
I love that. And I think it's really about leadership quality. Like you're a perfect example of, you can find leadership qualities anywhere. So don't just keep it to the folks in your store or your hiring process. If you see someone out there who's doing a great job at the Starbucks, talk to them about the opportunities you have, especially right now with the technician and labor shortage. I think it's important to, if you see anyone that's doing a great job, talk to them.
Yeah. And they also said what they learned was to ask who the person knows that is looking for a job. Don't directly ask the person if they're looking, ask who they know. At the time it went over my head. I was like, who do I know? And I was like, oh wait, me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, what would you add to this discussion?
So to add on to what Amanda said, definitely recruit. Definitely show that there are other women in the automotive industry. I think it's really important if we go out there and show that there are other women in the automotive industry. Maybe more women want to join. Maybe they want to be a part of it. It's just super important that we just show, because I personally would not want to work in an industry where there's no one like myself. I wouldn't be comfortable in that kind of environment. If it was just the same gender, like everyone's all male, I might not feel comfortable. I might not feel like I might be able to fit.
Yep. And I think that's a very good point, even like from a customer perspective, right? When they're coming in and they only see one type of person across the board, they're not going to be comfortable to go, more than likely, they won't be comfortable to go up to that person.
Exactly.
It's really important to have a variety of genders, nationalities. I think as an industry, we're really moving toward this. Cindy, you're nodding your head. Tell me what you think, girl.
I would say show them career success by demonstrating care and interest in their goals. So understanding what their goals are. We have to care about their life-work balance. We have to set expectations and acknowledge those when they're achieved or exceeded, and allow them to be creative and to contribute, and recognizing the strengths and leveraging that for their success. So, I whether it's a female, male, or any type of diversity, this is what every employee needs.
Yes, I love that. And I'm going to put one of you or many of you on the spot, because I'm going to ask a question that I did not prepare you for. But work-life balance is such a big deal. So this is becoming a huge thing, especially for women who, especially after the last year and a half, when we've been home with a lot of kids who have been educating themselves at home. Let's see. Which one of you jump in? What do you think in terms of work-life balance? Like, how can we as an industry help move this idea forward?
So I think scheduling needs to become more creative. Insisting upon reasonable amount of hours in a workday must be found in this industry.
Yes.
Scheduling a lunch must be found in this industry. I learned a lot during the pandemic that people need to take care of themselves and their family first in order to do a good job for us. So letting them have the day off if someone is ill, and not being like, when are you going to come back to work? But rather, is everyone okay?
Yes.
Are you okay to come back to work? I think that's some of the life-work balance that we need to learn.
Well, and I love what you're speaking about is really caring individually for each person, right? Not the job or what they bring to the position, but the person. What are they going through? How can we help them with some of these things? So I love that. Does anyone have anything to add about, work-life balance ideas for some of the audience out there?
I know.
Okay, Elizabeth, let's go to you and then we'll go to Amanda.
So I think it's really important to have a work-life balance, just like Cindy added on. We all have family that we have to take care of. We all, some of us may have children. And I think it's very important that we are flexible with them because, sometimes things come up, like our child may be sick, and we have no one to watch them, we have to stay home. We as a manager need to be understanding, ask them, are you okay? Is your child okay? What can I do to help? And we also don't want to make them feel bad for having to call out of work because,
Right.
Family comes first.
Yes, I love that. Amanda, what would you like to add?
Well, what we've kind of done is we have, mainly for the advisors, we have them on a partnership. So they have a partner. So when they're out, they don't have to worry as much. They have someone there that's going to check on their clients for them. They have someone there that can check in with them and help them out. As for technicians, we have a 4-day work week schedule. We've done it a couple of different ways to try to find the best balance for them. But it seems to be working. They get more time off to be with their families, and then they come back refreshed and ready to do a great job.
Well, and I love the partner idea because this is not just black or white. That's a perfect example of a way that we can still take care of our customers, but give our employees some flexibility.
Exactly.
Kaylee, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, what Cindy was saying about the flexibility or just allowing people to have control over their schedules. I know that's something I appreciate in my role is I have complete control. I mean, sometimes meetings get scheduled and I have to do them, but just having complete control over my schedule and the flexibility allows me to be a better mom and have a better life. So I think that's so important.
Yeah. All right, guys, if you have not heard loud and clear, what we're saying is flexible schedules. We're going to skip to a different subject for a minute because while you all are female leaders, you are also leaders in your organization. And one of the things that we're seeing, especially during the chip shortage, has been the importance of the fixed ops department. We've known this all along, but now we're seeing that people are almost like putting them up to sales and saying, who should really be front of the house? So I'd love to get all of your takes on this. Elizabeth, let's start with you. What do you think about fixed ops starring role right now in the success of the dealership?
Well, like you said, with the supply and demand when it comes to cars, the inventory is super limited right now, and that could go on for a long time. So I think service has a great opportunity to bring in more revenue because now that we're seeing more and more customers are starting to drive the car more instead of flying due to COVID, which means the common things like oil change, brakes, things like that are starting to be consumed faster, so they're having to come in for service sooner than later. And not only that, with lack of cars being available for purchase, people are holding on to older cars even longer, which means they need more repair, more maintenance, which does cost a little bit more money, unfortunately. But basically, we have the opportunity to provide excellent customer service experience. When we show customers we care about them, we value them, they might be more likely to spend a little bit more money with us. Because personally, I'm someone that likes to save money, but if I feel like I'm getting really good customer service and I'm really being taken care of and I'm getting my money's worth, I'm more inclined to spend a little bit more money. Yeah. And for example, I read one article, if a customer feels like they are well taken care of and after 5 service visits at the dealership, they are 3 times more likely to purchase a vehicle within that dealership in the future.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's absolutely key. Cindy, what would you like to add to this?
So the service department being the center of success, I think, is what we're talking about. And the new economics of the service is the frontline workers and the customers, of course. They need to be the center of management concern. We need to pay attention to the factors that drive profitability by investing in the people, technology that supports them, revamp our recruiting and training practices. Compensation should be linked to performances at employees through every level. We need to manage and measure their success, not only their success, but the employee satisfaction, the productivity, the services that we provide. Profitability is stimulated by customer loyalty, and the value created by a satisfied, loyal customer comes from productive employees. I'd say it's at the employee level.
Okay, does anyone else think Cindy should run for president? I love what you're saying, and I agree 100%. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's worth it for our industry as a whole. Amanda, what would you have to say to the fixed ops becoming kind of the success center of the dealership?
I agree 100% with both Cindy and Elizabeth. It's cheaper to keep a existing customer than to lose them to another dealership. It's cheaper to keep an employee when they're happy. It's easier. And if your employee's happy, your customer's going to be happy. That's why CSI is such a driving factor. I know Mercedes on our side, they kind of did away with they're not monitoring the CSI as much, but that we are, because what's the best thing for our customers is, our employees being taken care of, and vice versa.
I love that. Kaylee, what would you like to add to this?
I always talk about giving the support and the tools to your managers and your team. So with service, there's parts, and I know we're short-handed on people too. So giving them the tools to be more efficient with the operation and really support them, I think the morale can to show with how they treat the customers. So yeah, it's so important. I agree with everyone.
Yeah, I think it is. We're moving into a great stage of our industry where I think people are seeing more and more the importance of fixed ops. And as all of you said, treating people in a way that will ensure they come back, to where you're not just getting a one-time customer, you're getting that customer over the life of their vehicle. So I'd like to end this with a quick lightning round for each of you. If you had one piece of advice for the women coming up through the service department or parts department or fixed ops in general, what would it be for them to create a leadership path? Cindy, we'll start with you.
Well, you kind of caught me off guard there. So if I was meeting you for the first time, what I would say to you is welcome. And in a month, I'm going to ask you where you want to be in the dealership, what interests you. And then from there, I would provide you with, the opportunity to get there by giving you support, by showing you how to do it. I would also recommend something that you mentioned earlier: do more work than is asked.
Yes, I love that. Elizabeth, what would you share?
I would say find a mentor, find a female mentor, whether it's within the dealership or network. You can network with other women in the automotive industry. Ask them what they did to get where they are now. Ask them if they can provide any guidance to help you continue to grow.
I love that. And we're entering, I feel like, a really strong stage right now with women across the board in automotive. So there are plenty of people to seek out and find in that role. Kaylee, what would you share with the group? I would say take risks, go for it. Even if you don't know exactly how to do it, just try, because that's all you can do, and you'll figure it out. And I think, as we've been saying all along, the risk takers, right? If management sees you taking risks and really raising your hand and saying, I would like to take this next step, that will be noticed and it will be rewarded. And Amanda, we'll close it out with you. What would you say to female leaders coming through the ranks?
I'm going to elaborate a little bit on what Cindy said, and kind of like what I said last time, is just always be the hardest working person in the room. Be vocal about your goals and let your managers know, hey, this is what I want to do. Can you show me? That's the biggest thing, is can you show me? Be active in your learning experience and you'll continue to go far. I mean, Gene, aren't these women amazing? Of course
they are
amazing.
No, they are amazing. I mean, I had the privilege, and it's really sad that this hasn't continued, but I had the privilege in retail of working for the Campbell Automotive Group. and fully 50% of all the leadership were women. This was in the mid 1990s. So I was really blessed to have that experience.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just normal. But what were those statistics again that you started out with? What is the percentage?
So the largest percentage of females is in the service role, and that's at 19. Our top is 19%. Yeah. By the time you get down to service and parts, it's 6%, and general manager females are 5%. And that's not even looking at folks who have come up through the dealership to reach that general manager. That's just across the board stats.
Yeah, and we need to do a lot better than that.
Yes, we do.
Because, I mean, look at this group. We have so many amazing women who are out there already leading, and we need to encourage more to come along. So thank you so much, all of you, for what you're doing. And again, as you mentioned earlier, Lori, thank you to Roger Conant for encouraging this more and more in everything that he does. I want to thank Elizabeth Martin and Kaylee Filio, Amanda Mitchell, and Cindy Lentz. Thank you all so much for being here again at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And of course, Lori Halter of Charisma Communications, thank you so much for moderating.
Thank you.
All right, stay tuned, everybody. More of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Pay It Forward, is coming up next.
At Pike Place Fish Market, you'll see lots of flying fish. But we saw more. Great customer service, teamwork, energy, and results. So how can you bring this kind of energy to your organization? The answers are in Fish, the most watched training video in the world. The Fish philosophy is a fresh, powerful training solution. It has 4 easy-to-use practices. They help you create an environment where people love to come to work.
One fish flying to Deborah. One fish flying. And so Fish really lights people's hearts on fire. It helps them understand, hey, it's up to me, and then it shows them a very simple, predictable pathway.
So we all need ways to get pumped up and get remotivated and refocused on what it means to really work together.
Checking bags? How you doing, sir?
Nearly every industry uses the Fish philosophy to deliver amazing customer service,
How's it going?
improve teamwork and trust.
The more we incorporate the Fish philosophy in what we do, the better job we do and the better our patients do.
It has absolutely transformed the climate of our school. Our discipline problems have gone down dramatically.
Businesses that I see use Fish invariably end up the first choice, not just for the customers that they serve, but for people who want to work there. You build great environments where people want to come to work and where people say, that's the business that I want to do business with.
Contact us to learn how the Fish philosophy will help you.
Listen, buddy. Hey, Owen, I'm glad they invited us back for the Pay It Forward because, we love to give back. It's all about what we do. Come on.
Well, you don't love to give back. You love to take back. Like, you took back the present you gave me last Christmas because I got more attention from last year's Fixed Ops Roundtable. Yeah, come on.
Hey, listen, you didn't deserve it. If Owen Moon wasn't a regular here, we wouldn't be on the show. So I said the present to him.
Well, what's he going to do with it? Marvel Comics Loki doll anyway. Come on.
Hey, just tell the audience who's coming up after Owen Moon. Owen Wilson.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the panel, the great panel from Part's Edge. Yeah.
is not often that I wear a hat here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. In fact, I'm not sure if I ever wore a hat, but I am very proud to wear the hat of Fixed Ops Digital and to welcome back Owen Moon, who's the CEO at that organization. Owen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. Hey, man, you look great.
Hey, I got this a couple days ago. I appreciate it very much. Right in time for Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah.
So, hey, congratulations on the success that Fixed Ops Digital is having. I'm seeing all these stores that you're adding. So, it keeps multiplying and growing and growing. So you're obviously doing some great stuff in the market.
Yeah, we're pretty blessed. We feel fortunate to kind of be leading the charge in online service marketing. You can tell by my voice, I've been doing nothing but talking to dealers and vendors and everything for the last month. One thing can shut me up is laryngitis, I guess. So,
well, we're not going to let that stop you here today. You've got a great presentation. You and I talked about it here. So I'm curious to see what you've got for us today. I know our audience really welcomes you back every time you come in. So you had a lot of great meat on the bone. So with that, I'll let you go ahead and take it away. The show is yours, Owen Moon.
Yeah, glad to be back. I'm super excited. Fixed Ops Digital, we're kind of pivoting as a company here as we move into 2022. And we're super excited for kind of what's been tasked by us, right? So one of the things that we're really focusing on is the standardization of online service marketing metrics. So that's something that's going to be kind of coming as we move into next year. And it's really needed because as we move away from retention, as we move away from, customer loyalty, or not away, but as we expand into the online side of the business, there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of things that are happening at such a fast pace that we just really want to help dealers understand kind of what to look for with their online service marketing and how it's actually performing and affecting their bottom line. So today I'm going to kind of start that process. The presentation that I have put together is called Using Data Intelligence in Your Online Service Marketing. So, we really feel like data intelligence is something that, when we first started, nobody was doing online service marketing. So for us, it really became an opportunity for us to, kind of help evolve our dealerships and kind of move that direction. But with that became the responsibility to actually showcase the results and really show dealers on how to know if their marketing is working. So today we're going to focus on a few different things. The first thing I want to focus on is the difference between online engagements and conversions. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about website page views and how they actually correlate to shopper engagement. And then we're going to end with focusing on those actionable conversions that actually drive revenue. So let's start a little bit with the difference between online engagements and conversions, because I think that's really where it needs to start. Is really we all need to be talking the same language here. And so what I did was I went to the dictionary. Let's go to the definition and actually see what exactly is the difference between engagements and conversions. So engagements, by definition, is when a service customer actually clicks on a specific button on the dealership's websites to take further action. In comparison, a conversion occurs when a service visitor on your website actually completes a desired goal, such as maybe booking an appointment or calling the dealership. So typically, while they're relatively different, engagements typically lead to conversions. And I'll get more into that as we get going. So when we look at kind of the primary online engagements that our company really strives to help our dealerships and really looks at as really the value engagements, there's really 4 of them that stand out: schedule service, click to call, save to phone, and then learn more.
And by the way, there's a big difference between engagement and conversion, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. And some other online engagements that we've seen out there, and I'll touch on these a little bit, is request more info, obviously the old print coupon, texting or emailing a coupon, and then even that old send a friend, right? Send something to a friend, which I've seen on websites as we do our audits and that type of thing. So let's just kind of break these down a little bit, right? If you look at our primary online engagements, obviously schedule service. We all know what that means. It's giving online service customers who are on the website the ability to schedule an appointment. But here's the big thing: utilizing your service scheduler software. we are, as an industry, we are in the X time scheduler, the CDK scheduler, all these different schedulers. We're in there every day utilizing that to help us manage our business. So why would we not use that same infrastructure to help those online customers schedule service? The next thing is click to call, right? Now, this is obviously only for those mobile customers, but our goal with the click to call engagement is to connect those customers directly, either with your service BDC or with your appointment coordinators. I've seen both of them really be successful. The third thing is save to phone. Now, this is really a secondary conversion from where we want to have customers take action, but it's also a way for customers to save the service offers to a device like their smartphone or their maybe a tablet that they're used to saving already, right? So Apple Wallet, Android Pass, people are using this. We were just talking about the NFL, right? I download all my NFL tickets to my phone before I get to the stadium. Movie passes, concert tickets, all of these are ways that we take and allow customers to download information. So utilizing that same save to phone functionality we found to be very popular amongst online service customers. Learn more. Now, learn more is kind of unique to us, and it's something that we've really taken pride in, that we're creating an opportunity to inform, educate, and recommend services to those customers that are looking for that. They want to know what it's going to take to keep their vehicle running in great condition throughout their vehicle ownership. And so to provide them with content and information on your website that does a good job of explaining this, creating those recommendations, we feel is a very valuable tool. And there's other reasons why that's valuable that I'll get into in a little bit later in this presentation. Now, let's talk about some of those secondary conversions, right? Request more info. I've seen this on coupons on the website or on the service specials page. Typically, this is through one of the website providers, and it's primarily a variable conversion, right? It's what people use to get more information about a specific vehicle. All the website companies have done is sort of taken that same CTA or that call to action and moved it over as a button for your service customers. So it doesn't really apply like it does on the sales side. Oh, the dreaded print coupon, right? We have had print coupon on our coupons or on the offers as a dealership community or as an industry for years, right? But the problem is they were designed for the desktop user. Now, we ran some numbers recently, and about 70% of all of our dealerships that we work with, service-focused website traffic, is actually mobile. So that print coupon is really no longer a relevant digital metric. And if anybody tells you that it is, then obviously they don't have the same kind of data that we have access to, with our dealer base. I don't see anybody printing from their smartphones. It's really hard to especially if you're out and about and you're on your phone, nobody's printing those coupons. So let's eliminate it. I mean, unless you're in a rural market where you're still getting quite a bit of printing going on, I see that once in a while. But if you're talking overall or big picture, that print coupon is definitely not a relevant CTA in today's online service marketing environment. Texting or email a coupon. Now, really, these are best utilized for customer retention or loyalty strategies. And since most online service marketing focuses on like conquest shoppers, right? We feel like text and email should be avoided. There's some rules and laws, obviously, that go into spam laws and double opt-ins and things like that. So you have to be careful on that. So you put your dealership at risk if you're using some out-of-the-box text and email coupon scenarios. But more importantly, it's just not a good engagement opportunity for those online service customers that might not have a relationship with your with your dealership. And then that last one that I wanted to touch on is just the send a friend. I've made jokes about this for years that you might have that one friend out there that's pretty cheap, but you're probably not going to email him a $9.90 or a $19.95 oil change coupon for his car. It's just not a relevant CTA. So let's just get it out of there. The more CTAs that we have, the worse your opportunity or the less the opportunity to actually get the deal or the customer to take the action that we want. So keeping them to those primary engagements that I mentioned before are always your best bet that we've seen, through our dealership partners. So what happens is then you can start to track it, right? You can track how many people are engaging with the schedule service button, how many people are engaging with the learn more button. All of these, really tell the story and help us use data intelligence when we're making those decisions down the road on what price do we want to have that offer at, what offers do we want to highlight, that type of thing. So to kind of sum this up, engagement should lead the online service shopper towards an actionable conversion. The print coupon is not a relevant digital engagement or conversion metric today. And finally, email and text are just not good conversions because there's no guarantee that shopper will ever take additional action. So if you're a customer and you send an email saying, hey, email me this offer, they might think they're done. Now they've forgotten about you and they've moved on. They might never get back to that email to be able to look at it and take some action. So that's kind of the first thing, right? The next thing I want to talk about is website page views means shopper engagement. So let's talk a little bit about the website page views and kind of in the past how they've gotten maybe a bad stigma in digital marketing. The reason why is that page views in the past were a sign of people not really knowing what they were getting, what they were looking for, or knowing where they were going on the website. Obviously, that's changed, and I'll show you guys some examples of how we're doing that. So how we're doing is actually creating that online service shopping funnel. So in this case, page views actually lead your online service customers toward the appointment. And then the last thing is just sort of that flow, right? Service menu page or the specials page to an overview or detail page, and then finally to an appointment. If there's a strategy, if there's an infrastructure on your website that moves that customer down the line, and the way we look at our fixed ops only traffic coming into your Google Analytics, page views are definitely an engagement metrics that we use in our strategy. So here's some of the engagements that we focus on, right? Organic service-focused website visitors. Now, this is the traffic that's earned from ranking on Google and other search engines. We also look at service-focused website sessions. This is how many online service shoppers actually visited those specific service-focused pages. Another big metrics that we look at is the same thing, service-focused, but in this case, those page views, right? How many total pages did an online shopper visit that were, from your service-focused pages? And then the last thing is actually getting into very specific pages, right? So online service shopper goes to your tire content or goes to your accessories content. We want to know which service is actually getting the most engagements. So that's another engagement metrics that we look at. So here's an example, right? This is a dealership that's been with us for quite a few years, actually. And we started in August of 2018. And so what we did is we looked at kind of a two-year window. We said, hey, from 2017 to 2019, and let's compare that to the same month time frame of 2020 and 2021. As you can see, the orange bar was the old baseline, and the blue bar is now the new baseline. So ultimately, when you build this content on your website and you create this infrastructure that the search engines can find and actually start to drive in more sessions and more service-focused website traffic, you can see over those 2-year situations, we're drastically increasing the amount of visibility that we're giving your dealership and then bringing more of those people into the website. At some point, that may level off a little bit over time, but then what we can look at is we can look at entrances, right? Entrances are big because if you have that one-to-one click, if I'm looking for information on a Honda Accord transmission service and I click right into a transmission page, there's going to be less page views, but it's going to be a better one-to-one relationship in that customer's going to find what he's looking for. So let's talk about the last key point I want to make, and that's focusing on actionable conversions that actually drive revenue. Now, really they come down to two, especially when you're talking with your online service shoppers. Click to call, right? Since most online service shoppers don't have a relationship with your dealership, this is a great opportunity for you to build value or build trust and build authority, with that potential customer. And then obviously the schedule service, right? Work directly inside your service schedule software to ensure that your service team knows when the customer is scheduling their appointment. No reason to send them to an email or, try to use some other scenario. Let's drive them right into what we are all used to using. And that's your X-Time, your CDK, all these different schedulers that are out there. So it kind of looks like this, right? And this is how I'll close. Service-focused website website page views lead to increased website engagements, which leads to more actionable conversions. They're going to drive revenue. And again, this is all from an online perspective. We do a great job of talking to our past customers. We have customer loyalty, customer retention strategies that we use every day. But you know what? That's only going to get us so much business because it's a finite market. What we want to do is expand, help you expand, get out to the masses. Let's talk to maybe some of those off-brand customers, people that live in your area that maybe didn't know that you serviced their off-brand vehicle. You might be a Honda store, but you want that Toyota business, you want that Chevy business. And so ultimately, when you bring in more website page views, you're going to increase those website engagements, and that's going to lead to more appointments and more bottom line revenue. So with that, Ted, I'm going to pass it back to you. See if you had any questions for me. Otherwise, I appreciate the time today.
Everyone, you know how to reach Owen Moon. His information is up here on the screen at the bottom of the ticker. His phone number and his email address as well. Fixed Ops Digital. I wrote this down, Owen. Driving actionable conversions that drive revenue at your dealership. So if that's what 100%. You want, everybody, and it is, Owen's the man to reach out to. Owen Moon at Fixed Ops Digital, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And Owen, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
You as well, sir. Thank you.
Ted, Owen always brings powerful marketing strategies to the Fixed Ops community. And we're also seeing a trend that's making a difference in parts departments across the country with our next panel, sponsored by Parts Edge.
Well, Gene, that's right. And we are now looking forward to one of the most anticipated panels of the entire event. Kaylee Filio is with Parts Edge, and we are hosting a panel today that's entitled The Consistency in the Parts Operations. And I'd like to introduce, in addition to Kaylee, some great friends of the conference and the event. Tully Williams of the Nilo Company. Tully, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. It's sure an honor to be here and excited to be on the parts panel.
And Tully, I am wearing my Tully button in good faith, and I thank you for all that you do for the Fixed Ops community. So thank you so much. You're very instrumental in everything. So not a day goes by that someone doesn't sing the praises of Tully Williams. So thank you so much.
That's so kind, Ted. Thank you so much for that.
Also with us today are two other regular people who appeared on the Fixed Ops Roundtable many, many times. We have Mike Weldon. Mike is with the Hansel Automotive Group in Santa Rosa, California. Mike, welcome back. And I also want to welcome back James Holloway from Swickard Automotive, who's another expert in the parts field. So, Kaylee, you've got the best of the best. I'm excited. I know you've worked very hard to put this panel together. So with that, I'm going to let you take it away and get started.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ted. All right, so we're going to start with going around and introducing everyone, but really today we're starting with talking about how we're shorthanded, bringing on consistency within the parts operations. So Tully, you start with just giving us a little background.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be on this panel. I'm Tully Williams from Sacramento, California, the Nilo Company, 100 years in business this year. We're super excited. 10 rooftops, luxury brands, been in the business for a really long time.
Awesome. And then Mike?
Well, good day. Mike Weldon with the Hansel Auto Group. Been in business 60 years, just a short bit shorter than where Tully's been. We've got 9 brands, 8 rooftops, and a collision center.
Great. That's awesome. And then James?
Hey, James Holloway, Swickard Automotive Group in Seattle. We have close to 23 rooftops now. Also a former wholesale specialist for not one, but two OEMs. So I have parts director experience as well as OEM experience.
That's great. That's a great experience to have. So as I mentioned, we're experiencing shorthandedness, and there's a shift in the industry. So I want to start with us talking about how we're managing through those shifts and what you guys are implementing to stay consistent and stay profitable within your parts departments. So I'll start with Tully first. You go for it and tell us what you're doing.
Well, thank you. So I think that the key of consistency in the parts department, the key of making sure we have longevity is the parts department part of the fixed ops team. And I've worked in a lot of stores in my life, and the parts department's in the back where all the spiders are hided out, right? And I feel that they're kind of like the detailers. They don't get all the glory. And if we tie our parts counter people to the package of what we're doing every day, I don't call parts departments a parts department. I call it the fixed ops department. So now the back counter have so much invested in trying to make our hours forecast. And our back counter people have a lot to do with it. The funny thing is that we believe that parts people should be paid on parts gross. They have nothing to do with parts gross whatsoever on the back counter. I call them more like librarians, but what they do have is the efficiency of our technicians in hand. How fast can we get those great quotes out? How fast can we get the parts out to our technicians? And now because they have skin in the game, all of a sudden they are I need to get that part to that technician so we can get that hour closed. I believe getting them together as one. So when we have a fixed ops meeting or a tech meeting, the parts counter people are in the meeting because they are 100% invested. Is the culture at your store parts included? When you talk about parts and labor gross per hour, parts is what drives that number higher. It's not discounts or something that lowers it down. That has very little to do with it. Parts has a big deal. Getting your parts department team involved on your everyday is a big deal for us.
Definitely. That was awesome. That's great. Spot on. And now we'll go to Mike. What are you guys implementing to stay consistent and just, because we're all working harder to maintain that profitability. So
Thanks.
What have you guys done?
I think Tully stole my line card. Or maybe it's because we've been in business as long as we have, and we fully understand that you have to do this transition and you have to change the dynamics of the business to stay up with it, with the evolving times. We look at it the same way. It's fixed operations. It's not parts. It's not service. We haven't migrated changing pay plans, but we've changed perception and so that they understand what the needs are. We measure the same things. We push the same data so that they understand their integral part in how efficient we're going to be in the service department. And that's the only way we're going to be successful, because the majority of the work is coming through the shop. That's their best customer. And if they understand that, they're going to work a little bit harder and try to drive that business.
Yeah, just the understanding of why and what they're doing and the impact of what they're doing and overall how everyone can work together to be successful. Yeah, that's great points. James, we'll go to you.
Well, being in the business for as long as I've been doing this for about 30 years, there's a lot of things that you notice. And to Tully's point, it's all about consistency, teamwork, making sure that everyone knows, what the goal is. But I will say this, you can have the best polished parts team at the back parts counter. And I'm going to throw out the old adage, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Sometimes the weakest link could very well be your own parts inventory. And what we're looking for, what drives billable hours, what drives CSI, what drives a decrease in rental car expense is going to be your parts inventory. So a good rule of thumb is to look for at least look for a 90% off the shelf fill rate. When I say off the shelf, I mean immediately. If a technician has a list of 10 parts and you're able to immediately fulfill that request with 9 of them off of your shelf, that's a good place to be.
Can I comment on that, what James said?
Yeah, definitely.
So James, it's spot on. When you look at parts inventories, and that, to me, honestly, it's the only inventory that usually the dealer actually owns. And, and if we manage that inventory right, is I like to look at fill rate. Absolutely. I want that at least 90%. But, when you look at your fill rate, if you look at your inventory, what's the quality of the inventory, right? And I call working stock is what we use here at the Nilo company. And working stock is inventory that is under 7 months old and no SOPs in it. That's the stock that you're selling every day. And the parts manager's job is to work on that. Yes, we have old age stuff, but we need to be managing that. Anything over 12 months is like a red flag. And I think that if we have better fill rates and better working capital or better working inventories, our technicians will become much more efficient. And, I hate to say wholesale, will be much better off that way.
Right.
Yeah, those are great points. And that actually leads me into the next, what I wanted to bring up is the, we're all experiencing the shorthandedness. And so are you guys experiencing that your parts managers are not left with enough time to be proactive with their inventories and managing their DMS? So I'll start with Tully.
Yes. I think that, one thing about parts departments is that longevity is usually, they're a very good click in there, and longevity in our parts departments are strong. I mean, I think, parts drivers and stuff sometimes float in and out, but, the issue is that, do we have all the tools for our managers to have? Do we have all the tools for our parts counter people to have? And I'm talking about scan guns. I'm talking about, do you have a product like an X-Time or a familiar product like that helps drive estimates and help look up stuff? Are you making your employees efficient? Are you giving them all the tools? Because the worst thing you can say, well, he can't have 2 screens. What? Get him 5 screens if it'll make him more efficient. And I think that we have to look at the back counter as a bottleneck in the shop, and they can be the heroes of your store by providing those parts to our technicians.
Yeah, those are great points. And then Mike, how about you guys?
Well, you got to evolve with modern technology, right? And getting people to use the new tools, especially if they've been in the business a long time, somewhat a challenge. But once they see the benefit, they move. And they find out that they can get 3 or 4 times done in a short period of time where it took them 2 days to get through it, then they're a little more likely. But you've got to convince them. I mean, they're hard to move. But once they see the technology, they see what the intent is, they see that we're there to support them. I think that's the biggest thing. They think that we're trying to put more work on them, and we're really not. We're trying to make it easier on them, knowing that we don't have enough staff.
Yeah, and then managing the process and just giving them the tools so that they can be better. How do you overcome those obstacles, or presenting something to a parts manager to help them? Because I know that there's this expectation that they should be able to do it all, and I think they hold that. So how do we overcome that with them? Is most important too.
Well, it's kind of interesting that we're on this forum, but almost 9 years ago, we elected to move to Parts Edge. Are we allowed to say that? We moved to Parts Edge to take some of those menial tasks that the managers were getting tied down in and they weren't very efficient at, and we eliminated those. Where the work is done in the background and it keeps them working on the stuff, day-to-day stuff that they need to be moving on to help the shop and help their wholesale customers. And it's made our world a much better place, I'll tell you.
So James, what are you guys experiencing? How do you guys overcome those obstacles?
The bandwidth of any parts department, let's look at what happened in the past. We had COVID. Some dealerships were forced to scale back. Some of the employees didn't come back. More and more is on the plate, and I kind of look at it like they're wearing a fireman hat. They're trying to put out fires. I've seen, even our managers, they struggle with time because, like as you said, they're trying to get it all done. Some of them even take the work home with them. These are some of what I call the non-revenue generating tasks, but they're still important. They're administrative tasks, and especially when it's tied to the inventory. And I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going back to the inventory because, imagine a world where you have a back parts counterman using all the tools, and this is a good person that's really experienced, but they don't have trust in the on-hand counts. Okay, so that's a good indicator right there, where the computer says you have 10, and they go back to the bin, and there's only 6. So there's an old adage out there called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, because your computer system is generating all of these calculations of your beginning on hand, how many are on order, how many do you have, how many have you sold, and it'll generate every time you run a stock order a suggested restocking quantity. And if the quantity is off, that's a problem, because now you're either going to be way over or way short. So, but getting back to your question about how do we institute all this, it all ties into, time is money. And if I can save our parts managers time, then we're going to be saving them money. So it's all about efficiencies.
Let's circle back to just being your parts counter people and just how we can help train them and mold them into the best that they could be. So what are a few things that you guys implement with your parts counter people in training? And so I'll start with James.
Okay, so let's look at the phenomenon that we're experiencing right now. A lot of dealers don't have any new cars to sell. That means that we're in acquisition mode. We're trying to pick up as many used vehicles as we can from wherever we can. We're mining for those used vehicles. And when you bring a used vehicle in, whether it's an off-lease return or trade, the first thing that has to happen is it has to go through a reconditioning process. And so that's an example of where if we can expedite and get those quotes, we call them P&As, price and availability. And probably the biggest thing as an expense in reconditioning the car is going to be tires. I've done so many of these recon quotes, and it's always the wear and tear stuff. Tires, batteries, wiper blades, brake pads, lather, rinse, repeat over and over again. And going back to the efficiency part that we talked about, it reminds me of walking into a grocery store or any store, and you see at least 10 different checkout lanes, but there's only one person who's actually doing the checking out. So, efficiency is of paramount importance. But, the more of these reconditioning vehicles that we can push out and get them, the faster we can get them to the front lines, the more cars we're going to sell. So that's just kind of like one slice of our business back in fixed ops. Yeah.
And it's just growing, and it's becoming more and more of a focus, really. Tully, we'll go to you.
What the struggle we have with our back counter people is that I think that they feel like they are not part of the team, right? And I think that, training them up, do you have a training path for your counter people, right? I think every store probably has the senior guy, and then he is training some other people. But how do we get those senior people to mentor those people? Because as they come up, does your store need 1, 2, or 3 counter people plus a wholesale if you have a front counter, right? And if we are not mentoring our youngs coming up, it's the same problem we have in the shop with technicians. Are we mentoring? Is there a pathway for all of our counter people? And do those counter people feel that they're important as part of the team in the fix ops department? If they feel they're important and they're making contribution, and then we reward them for those things like that, longevity and working hard is beside the point. It's not an issue anymore. It's that we all are working toward one thing, and that is to sell that billable hour and have parts tied to it. I think that when we do contests, we always leave parts department out. As we have a contest going on, that parts is left over. But are we going to have parts contests? Yes, we are. And those parts contests got to be things that are relevant to them. Quotes times, how fast to get the quote to the service advisor. If your software that you have can time that, that's something that you can make fun with. Have parts departments through an organization like us. We have 10 rooftops. Is that we can have competition between the two. Is there some celebrations and wins for the stores? Having best ever months in certain parts capacities, or do we have do we have the parts in stock? Those things are winners. Taking them all out to dinner for a steak dinner because we achieved the best ever in something is a huge deal to retain and grow parts people, right? Parts people usually don't want to go to the next step. And a lot of times a parts manager can be there for an awful long time. So do you have a pathway to maybe an assistant parts manager that has some authority? So then the parts manager can take a vacation and not worry about his inventory being screwed up when he gets back, right? And I think that having paths is the crucial element to keep everybody on track and happy.
Yeah. So that there's a focus on a career. They can see growth. They can say, okay, I'm going to grow here. I'm going to learn. And then we'll go to you, Mike. And then also I want to talk about parts management. So we're seeing another shift too. A lot of parts managers are retiring, and there's counter people moving up. How are we training our parts managers and giving them that? So Mike, we'll go to you, talk about that a little bit, and then we'll move on.
Well, I comment on both what Tully and James said, that in addition to that, even though they said it underlining, it's over communicating. You've got to communicate. You've got to involve people. You've got to ask for their opinion. You've got to, you move with, if they got an idea, try it. It doesn't matter if it's a good idea or an okay idea, try it. And if it doesn't work, they usually develop something even better than the idea that they first came up with. And that's how we develop people. And you build your camaraderie. You're not going to go out and put an ad in the paper and you're going to get a seasoned parts manager. You generally just won't. First off, they don't leave to where they're at, or they're getting ready to retire and they're not going to leave because they're leaving. So you got to build your people, and you really have to invest. Now, these last 2 years has really opened everybody's eyes that you've got to invest in your people. Before everybody says, well, that one goes, I'll replace them with somebody else. Well, there isn't anybody else to replace them with. So build them. And some of the staff, some of the management looks at you like, hey, you got problems. I don't have time for that, or I don't know how to do that. Then we have to sit down and discuss how we're going to get it done, and let's work together as a team. And I tell you what, we've won more things than we've lost, and we've developed more people. We've had more promotions within our company because of this, and it's built us a better company because of that.
That's great. You guys grew from unexpected kind of really, really hard times. So Tully, you raised your hand. You had something to add.
He's spot on, Mike is. I think that when you look at, does your team have the pathway to become a parts manager, right? As we see parts managers retiring, as we see service managers and service writers and technicians, do they have the pathway when they first come in? Has everybody have a written plan for their parts procession? It starts with a driver. A driver then goes to probably a person that's managing the inventory, putting the inventory away, keeping it clean, doing double checks for everything. Then that person then becomes a backup or /front counter person. That person there it turns into maybe a wholesale-ish account. And then it turns to, this guy is good. Let's get him on the back counter because he's going to help drive those hours. There's a pathway all the way from a driver to a parts manager that's over time. Training is difficult when it comes to parts training because there isn't very much. So it's always kind of a hand-me-down or processes that you have at your store. But is it in writing? The biggest thing we have for service managers is, do we have a tech pathway? It's the same thing in parts. Do we have a parts counter pathway to show them that we care and they have a great future here at the Nilo company?
That's a great point to add. Just the pathway to growth in a career with parts, really. So I also hear all too often is a parts manager got a day or two of training from the guy who was on the way out. So do you guys have any advice to give to dealerships on ensuring that doesn't happen, or what can you do to help a parts manager that kind of got thrown into a situation? We'll go to you, James.
Well, first things first, I agree with everything that the panel says. I like to say we don't work in the car business, we work in the people business. And we have to have a bench. Okay, it's just like professional sports. You have to grow your own bench, and you have to have those people. And it all begins with treating them right. And for me personally, in the past, one of the biggest things I used to really enjoy with my crew was they don't remember what you said or what you did, or they always remember how they felt or how you made them feel, and again, the word camaraderie came up earlier. I couldn't agree more. But, positive reinforcement, when you catch them doing something well, not only does it reward, putting them in the spotlight right then and there for everybody to see, hey, this person went out of his way to create a very memorable experience for the customer. Let's celebrate that. And what happens is that it creates a culture, right? Everybody wants to come to work in a place where there's a great culture going on, when there's a sense of camaraderie, when there's a sense of teamwork. And when you look at the prior month and it says, okay, well, we had another record month, those are all things that contribute to making a feel-good place to come to work, right? Yeah, we had setbacks, we had challenges, we had, all these things going on, but together we conquered the mountain. But I've said it once, I'll say it again, having the culture, and I'll tell you what, when you build the culture, it's not easy, but when you do, the first person that's going to recognize that is going to be the customer every single time.
Can I jump in? Because the 2 points that just came up, one about the parts pathway, and now James about the dealership culture. Mike, I'm coming to you if I can. How important is that culture? I agree with what James said, is that the first person to identify with that is going to be your consumer. Also, that parts pathway. How needed is that? Because that sounds like something, Tully, that we have on the service side that Mike, we haven't always had on the parts side. What do you think about that?
Well, we looked at that really hard, and we sit down as an executive group within our corporation and knew that we had an issue. We had a disconnect. We had a disconnect between sales, service, parts, collision, and that created dynamics within the company that didn't allow us to service our employees right, nor did it allow us to service our customers properly. So we developed a direction that we wanted to go, and we call it Caring Drives Us. Mm-hmm. And we live it. We don't have a Tully button, but we have a Caring Drive Us button that we wear all the time, and it's just repeat, 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 and we live it. And I will tell you, the transition has been phenomenal. Are we there yet? No. We've got a lot of work ahead of ourselves, but we're much further along down the track than we were years ago.
And Mike, I got to tell you that when I was out to your dealer group meeting with Justin and with Dave Long and yourself, and then when we had that fixed operations summit about a year and a half ago, Tully, over in Santa Rosa, that Mike got everybody together. He got service, he got parts, he got everybody who touches a customer on one page, and we spent that time together, Mike. And I think that is so valuable because it shows the recognition. It was mentioned the steak dinner, but also not just the training, but the lack of training also speaks a big message to the employees, and ultimately that trickles down to the customer. Tully, let me just come back to you real quick on that dealership culture. How important is that, and how does that apply to parts?
It applies to every facet of your dealership. It does irrelevant if it's parts, a porter, a detailer, a salesperson, or a sales manager, or even the dealer himself. Does your dealer believe in it? Our core values. We are a team. We respect and honor each one of us. These are the core values that we believe in. Our dealer will read them. If we have an issue, he comes out and reads the 7 core values of what the store has. Does it fall into those core values? It starts with your leaders believing in the culture, not your employees, your leaders. When your leaders believe, your employees, your team believes, and they believe that you actually care about them, which we do, because our most valuable asset at a dealership is our people.
Yeah, I agree. And Kaylee, if you don't mind, I got to ask James just one last question on this culture, because James has sat in that OEM chair, okay, as well as the retail side, and with significant wholesale experience, which I think is so important to the message of this panel. James, talk to me about that dealership culture. And I know on the OEM side, there's certainly a pathway, but how lacking is that in retail from what you see, and the importance of culture?
You know, there's a lot going on, and I will say this, okay, and I'm again, everything I say is based on my past experience, and it starts with an onboarding process. When you have a new employee, making them feel special, sitting them down. Some dealerships have mission statements. I know I wrote one at the dealership that I was at because, you know, a mission statement is what creates a culture, and a culture was what drives what we do. You know, that's the reason of what we do. And it's the same thing on the OEM side. It's the same thing on the dealer side. You know, either side, it doesn't matter. Again, people managing people, growing our bench, you know, and developing the talent that we had. I mean, when I came into the car business, I'll be honest with you, I had a lot of rough edges. And over time, I grew to learn from mentors. So I'm going to say mentoring and coaching is very important. Matter of fact, that's what I did for the OEMs, for both of the OEMs I worked for. It was all about mentoring and coaching and showing them the gaps and performing the assessments and how can we get from point A to point B, and this is the steps, and these are the things that work for other dealers, and this is the results that they've had. But again, connecting with the person one-on-one, showing them the steps, holding their hands, all those things all go together.
And James, we're not just at the car business, we're in the
people business.
I love that quote of yours. I love
Thank
that.
you. Thanks.
Haley, if anybody wants to reach out in our audience to find out more about Parts Edge, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
They can find it through our website. There's a calendar link on there, by email, the email on there. Just reach out.
All right. I want to thank Haley from Parts Edge for hosting this panel today. I also want to thank so much Mike Weldon from the Hansel Automotive Group. Mike, great job as always. James, thank you so much for all you do for the industry as well. Love it. Love your message. And of course, Tully Williams from the Nilo Company. Tully, it took me 2 years. I can now pronounce it correctly. So I can now say the name of your organization. 100 years. Congratulations on the Nilo Company and their time in business. Thank you, everybody.
Ted, we've been waiting a long time to hear from our next panel. In fact, we've been working on getting this group together since the time they founded WOCAN. It's the founders of the Women of Color Automotive Network.
We are so honored now to have with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable Pay It Forward event the founders of the Women of Color Automotive Network. And we have a couple friends who have been at the event many, many times before. I'm referring, of course, to Erica Tiffany Wells and Kerry Wise. Ladies, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you for having us, Ted.
Thanks for having us, Ted.
Hey, Kerry, I'll let you introduce everybody since I think you could do a better job than I could ever possibly do.
Yes, we appreciate you having us here. I have with me my fellow founders of Women of Color Automotive Network. It's an organization that we're so proud to have launched last year, and want to go ahead and introduce everybody. First of all, my name is Kerry Wise. I'm a vice president of marketing for AutoFi, which is a digital retailing firm in the automotive industry, and the president of WOCAN, and have been working in the automotive industry for the past 22 years across digital and different vendors, working with OEMs and dealers. I'll start with Amanda Gordon, the Amanda Gordon, just to be specific, who is the CEO of Gojo Auto, an independent car dealer. Her claim to fame, outside of just being an amazing operator and executive at a dealership, is also she's the very first Black woman to ever own a car dealership in the state of Colorado. So we just got to throw that record-breaking moment out. So Amanda, you wanted to share a little bit more about your background?
Sure. Thank you, Madam President, Kerry Wise. It's so good to be here with the founders. And thank you, Ted, for having us. I love what this cause is going towards, and really appreciate you having us on today. So I started my automotive career back in 2002. I was working in retail at the Gap. I had a young lady come into my store who insisted on not being outfitted by any of my options. And by the time I was done with her 2 hours later, she left with 2 big bags of clothing at my discretion. And she said, "You need to come work with me." And she worked for Honda. And that was January of 2002, which I'm approaching my 20th year in automotive. And the rest is, as they say, history. I started in sales, went on to finance. And then I moved to the independent sector about 5 years ago, and noticed a need for women at the helm. There were not women, or anyone for that matter, that looked like me, that were in ownership positions, and dealing directly with the owners. My arrogance told me if they can do it, I could do it too. And I'll be darned if I couldn't.
Not arrogance, confidence.
That confidence, right? And so I started with 2 cars and a social media account back in January of 2019, and now we're running about 70 cars. I've got 12 employees. We've been nominated for countless awards across Colorado. We were just nominated for Colorado Companies to Watch. And I'm just proud when I wake up in the morning to do what I do and to be a part of such a robust industry where cars are appreciating right now. How crazy is that?
Well, and Amanda, you have mostly women working for you too.
I do.
It's just like in an industry where we say sometimes women don't want to work in auto, they're not attracted. Somehow you've been able to do it.
And I think it's, if we can see it, we can be it, right? They see me and they know it's possible, and I kind of make it look cool, right? And so we have a lot of fun. And I have a lot of young ladies who say, "I want to sell cars." And that is by and large my dream, to entice and motivate more women that look like us to say, "I want to be in the car business." And it can be in any sector. Our good friend Patrice is in the service side. There's all kinds of different opportunities, but me, I represent retail. And 2 of the women on my staff literally look just like me. It's almost scary. And so 70% women, I think 80% minority, which here in Colorado is very interesting. And we're doing the darn thing, and we're having fun and making an impact. We're very community driven. We're in countless community organizations, booster clubs, volleyball, basketball, you name it, we're there. And it's just, I'm honored and humbled to be a part of such an amazing industry. It's really a blessing that I found my passion and my purpose. And that's my short story.
Yes. And so we're going to go in alphabetical order. We got Erica Tiffany Wells. And I mean, Erica is like, I think, the superstar of 2021.
Amen.
Right? I think we could all just give her that award.
Amen.
Not only did she win Automotive News 40 Under 40, she made a major move, moving from her dealership in Atlanta as a sales manager to a dealership in Indiana. I'll let her tell that story. But she is making moves, taking risks. She's a sales manager for Volkswagen of Marion. And I'm going to let you take it from there, Erica, to share your story.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, Carrie. Carrie is so gracious. She didn't mention that she's also Automotive News top 100 leading women. So we definitely
of the world
acknowledge that.
Of the world.
Amazing job. She inspires me so much, just because she was one of the first women that I saw doing what she does. And it was years ago at a conference. And I said, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. And I kind of stood into that. So I appreciate that, Carrie. But my name is Erica. Yes, I am a sales manager at Volkswagen of Marion. I've been in the business 17 years, started out in service as a service advisor at a small Napa. I worked in buy here, pay here. I sold cars at Audi for a while. I was a sales manager there. I did finance, but I always felt like I was limited. Like I just couldn't move up the ladder. I'd love to be a GSM one day, love to be a general manager, have my own store. And I realized that there is a lack of opportunities for women of color to get promoted. And got with these ladies, and we decided that there's got to be other women who were struggling with this feeling of left out, feeling like they couldn't progress, and just needing a network of women that we can talk to and lean on, and having a support system and what we call a tribe. So it has been absolutely incredible having these ladies there to just kind of support that journey, to listen when we're having a rough day, and to encourage other women, to Amanda's point, to say, I will rise up. and you can too. Stick with it and create the automotive industry that we want, right? We want work-life balance. We want to be able to see our kids and enjoy the weekends and the holidays. And the automotive industry has every opportunity to do that. We just need some disruptors, some troublemakers to keep pushing it along and making sure that we make the changes that are necessary. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And then we have Patrice Banks. And Patrice, I think Patrice is a celebrity outside of auto, right? She has been in commercials and she has been sponsored by major companies or been the influencer for their brands. But more importantly, she is a CEO of Girls Auto Clinic. She went from an engineer to opening up her own service repair and technician business, nail salon, hair salon in the business, and she also employs a lot of women and minorities. So Patrice, I'll let you tell your story.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Yeah, I started out, like she said, I was an engineer and I called myself an auto airhead. I didn't really join the automotive industry until a couple of years ago, and it was not part of my plan. I wasn't trying to be a mechanic or open a repair shop, but as a woman, I hated my automotive experiences, taking my car in to get repair or maintenance, buying a car. I always thought I needed a man. I'd panic anytime something happened with my car. Right. And I waited to the last minute to take my car in to get things done. And for that reason, right, I didn't treat my car well. I didn't take care of it well. And I made really bad decisions. And I started looking for a woman mechanic because I thought that she would help me understand my car. I could trust her, and I couldn't find one. And I Googled female mechanic, and the first thing that popped up was the 10 top stock images of women mechanics. And it was women, you know, in the sexy bikinis next to muscle cars. And I thought there is a market out there for women who need resources, who need services with their car, who want to be confident about their choices, who want to feel good about taking their car in, who want to be their mechanics. And so I went back to school to learn how to work on cars so I could create a business that was going to do that. We were going to cater to women when it came to their car experiences. And how we're going to do that also is by hiring women mechanics and training women mechanics. So I opened my first shop in Philadelphia, PA. We do car care workshops where we teach women how to talk to mechanics, what to do in an emergency, right? And how to just generally take care of their car to make them smart consumers and confident drivers. I wrote a car care book that was published with Simon & Schuster that you can get on our website or on Amazon. And we have the repair center, right, where we hire women techs. We train also, we have an internship apprenticeship program where we train young women to be mechanics. And there's a nail salon there to get your nails done while you wait for your car. And we have this whole program around really educating women and reaching every woman driver. I call my women drivers now Chicanics as they're learning about their cars and they're becoming more confident. So yeah, that's what I do over at Girls Auto Clinic.
You know, Patrice, if I can come back to you, our audience here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and Kerry, as you know, this is our 14th event that we've had so far. Our audience is the dealers, the general managers, the fixed ops directors, service and parts. And in the past, we've had panels, Patrice, with just women on them. And Kerry's participated and even moderated those panels as well. At this event right now, Fixed Ops Roundtable Pay It Forward, this panel is our third panel at this event that is all women, all female. And so, you know, I can definitely see and I hear a lot of things that are happening. And Patrice, one of the things I hear, what it came up earlier in one of the panels, is that women trust other women and want to deal with women, especially in that service and fixed operations environment. If you would, and by the way, there's been some research done and some ROI on the increased ROI on doing business with women who work in a dealership. Tell us a little bit about that and your thoughts there.
Yeah, you know, it's just about the connection that you can make with people, right? With women and everyone who spends money spends it for an emotional need, right? And who better to understand those emotional needs of women who are driving vehicles and need to get their kids to school and get to work and run their errands than other women. And so it's about being relatable and being able to talk to them in a way that they can understand why they need these repairs or why they may need this car, being able to put yourself in their shoes. right? And it makes it easier to make a sale, and it makes it easier for them to bring their guard down and to trust someone with a decision that may cost them thousands of dollars, and they really don't have any understanding, right? It's about making them feel comfortable with this choice. And a lot of times for us as women, we engage the customer in the experience. We take them out to the shop. We show them what's going on with their car. We want them to feel confident about, their choices that they're making. And so it's really important that your customer looks like, your staff looks like your customer, right? Whether it's a woman, whether it's a minority, right? If you're trying to get that clientele, your staff should look like that. And that's what's going to make them feel comfortable coming to you. And that's what's been able to help us be so successful even through COVID is, people talk about us. You have to go to Girls Auto Clinic, right? It's a great experience. You're going to feel good. They'll talk to you. They'll take you out in the shop, right? And all of our advertising is word of mouth, and marketing is word of mouth because of it.
I have to come see it because I'm up in the New York area, but I got to come down to Philadelphia and take a look at it.
Done, Ted.
And I've heard so much about it. Erica, going back to something that you mentioned just a few minutes ago, you mentioned that it just takes a few more disruptors in our business. And I really think that the ladies on this panel are the disruptors. There's been so much in the last year on Women of Color Automotive Network. Erica, how did all of you meet? How did all of you get together?
Well, I love telling this story, so I'm so glad you asked me, right? So I kind of share, like, we all were independently. You wouldn't imagine, like, the connecting of the dots, and that's why it's so important for women to network. Amanda met Carrie, right, while she was speaking at an event. She was the woman that was there kind of making sure she had everything that she needed, grabbing her some water, just making sure she was taken care of. And that kind of sparked their friendship. That was how their relationship got started, right? Behind the scenes, just being there, supporting another woman. I actually followed Patrice on Instagram and I watched her. She was getting ready to open up the shop. It was the grand opening, had never DM'd her, had never messaged her before. But me and a girlfriend flew out to Philadelphia the night before her grand opening. We knocked on her door. I said, listen, I know this sounds stalkerish. I don't know you. I follow you on social media, but I would love to be a part of what you're doing. I want to support you in your grand opening tomorrow. And we've flown all the way from Atlanta to be here. She was like, you know what? Forget your Airbnb, spend the night with me. And from that relationship, not only were we there at her grand opening, she took us to the White House like 3 days later because she was speaking at an event. And she was like, just come with me. And that was the power of women and relationships and connecting the dots. And we've been friends ever since. I met Carrie watching her at, again, a speaking engagement. She was at a conference. She was up there talking about being the only one, and at that crossroad of being a woman and a woman of color and how alone she felt. And it was at that moment I was like, that's me, you're me, and it also gave me a point of reference to say, you know what, I don't see women like her in those positions being able to speak, being the vice president of a large company. If that can happen for her, then I have an opportunity as well. And I'm going to follow on her coattail. I tell her all the time to be tagged and mentioned in the same rooms that she is on the same social media post just gives me light and inspiration. But we all live in different states, California, Colorado, Philadelphia, Atlanta, I'm now in Southern Illinois. We're so far away from each other. But when I say we're girlfriends, we are linked as one together, and we want to create that same community for other women to understand how powerful that really is.
Ted, one of the things that people don't understand when you're the only one is that you notice the only one really quickly, right? We don't have the luxury of saying, I don't see color, I don't see gender, when you are the only one. And so I remember seeing Amanda at driving sales conference, and I remember thinking, who's that woman? I haven't seen her before. I got to write her down in my notebook as woman of color number 10 that I've met in 20 years, right? Like you literally have that feeling. Same thing with Erica. I remember seeing Patrice on a YouTube video. And so I think, we notice each other because in some ways we're kind of starved for that connection to somebody that has the same story as us or might have the same perspective. So it was really nice to bring WOCAN together because in some ways we scaled our relationship to the masses. We created an organization that women of color don't have to find each other at these conferences, these one-off chance meetings. We have an organization that they can come to and meet 500 women of color in this business.
So Carrie,
you would meet like when you see a woman of color, especially one that's in a position of influence or power, it's like finding that dream car. You're like, oh my gosh, you exist. You're my new best friend, right? I remember that's how Amanda and I met. I think that I came out to Colorado to do a workshop and she saw that and she just showed up and was like, I want to take you to lunch. I'm just so excited to find another woman that I can just reach out to, right? We already have that connection as I've been looking for you. And I know you've been looking for me, right? So it's immediate. We're like, yes, this is so awesome. And we just want so many other women to be able to find that, right? And it not be so hard and like it being like, taking a star out of the sky. So finding these little gems, but there are a ton of them out there. How can we get us all together, right? And make these connections that need to happen. It's important. And it's doing really well our first year so far. We've met so many incredible women. We've made so many connections between members. It's been really great.
Amanda, I think that we're just scratching the surface, and I'm going to need to ask all of you back, either individually or collectively. And Carrie, when you told me you were getting together the founders of Vulcan, I see what a powerful group it is. So I thank you for putting together this group and getting everyone together today. Patrice Banks, Erica Wells, Amanda Gordon, wow, and Carrie Wise. Carrie, tell us how we can learn more about Vulcan, how our audience can get involved.
Yeah, so join us at WOCAutonetwork.com. We have monthly events, so you can register and find out about those. We are for women of color, Black, Latina, Native, Asian, but we're also for white women and men. We have an ally program, so please go to our website, learn more, and we'd love to have you on our next virtual event. And Ted,
go ahead.
Thank you. Listen, we would not be where we are without allies like you sharing their stage and their light and giving us this visibility. So thank you so much, Ted.
Great stuff. Everyone, the Women of Color Automotive Network, the founders here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.